Hello. Since I finished up the Tamiya M2A2 ODS kit, I've gotten some requests to start doing the Magic Factory kit, which I do have a copy of. Just recently got it. I'm happy to go through it. I've already kind of skimmed through the kit and looked it over. However, rather than doing like all the different issues with it or detail problem or, you know, whatever, or just some interesting things, what I'm going to do is just work on doing the steps, and then we can have a discussion about some of the interesting things that I've noticed at the end of the video. So those of you that just want to build and go forward without worrying about it, you can skip after that. Anyhow, what we're starting with on here are all the road wheels, and they're pretty simple to go together. I've already cleaned everything up, remember? So to give you the lip that's in there, they've done these as two pieces, so now you've got that little hook down inside there. Pretty ingenious way of doing it. Doesn't really leave a noticeable seam for anybody to see once this is built and painted. Pretty cool. This is one case where you may want to do the priming of the parts, especially the inside of this here and the inside of this here, before you put it together, just to aid with painting later on. I'm not going to do that for this video, but that is a possibility. So just go ahead and start gluing this up. It's going to take me a second to get out, but and there's the correct number of road wheels, so 6 on each side per, so 12, 24 total. Take a little bit of work. I'm just putting a little glue on the inside, put this in, and then don't really need to spin it around, but anyways, I would have spun it around, but it glues well. I mean, this is going to be rock solid when it's done. Take a little bit of work, but there's no difference in the outer part, the front part of the road wheel, the rubber. It's all the same, so you just have to make sure that you have 12 of these with the ring with the plug and 12 of these with the ring and empty in the middle, and that they all have an exterior road wheel. And to do it quick, I'm just putting one centerpiece inside a wheel part, take a dab of glue on the line, done. So there we go. And again, wash, rinse, repeat until finished. This is the step. Now, to keep these separate from other things going on, and to keep them separate from each other, just to keep track of all the parts, make sure everything's right, I'm going to separate them all like that. I am not that worried about this step. I'm more worried about losing a wheel, because there's, like I said, 24 wheels, but since there's outer and inner, it's actually 48 total pieces. That's a lot. Don't let one roll under the table that you don't notice, something like that. So I've got one side done there. And so far, by doing this, I'm not noticing any glue running out in the front, any problems that way. So just kind of a dab of glue right in there, and it's running. I can see some of the moisture, or the glue moisture, I guess, whatever you want to think of it as, running all the way around. So if you're not too, and also make sure you don't put them in like this with the ring on the back. You absolutely want them on with that overhang on the front, because this does allow you to put them in that way, and you're thinking, oh, these are great, this is wonderful, except that you've got the outer face on the wrong side. You've been warned. Other than that, my overall impression of the kit so far is, I mean, favorable. I can tell that it's got some issues. I mean, what kit doesn't, right? But this is probably the best Bradley kit out of the box pre M2A3. I'm going to say that I haven't given a solid look at the M2A3 kit because I don't have that one yet. And the Meng kit is pretty rock solid out of the gate, so it'd be hard to beat that one. But the Tamiya Academy kits are definitely more buildable, more easily buildable. Oh, wrong side. Because they don't have as much detail or as many detail pieces. And so if you're just looking for something to have fun with, you don't necessarily need every detail piece. You may still want to consider those kits over this one, just because this has a lot of parts. The kit itself doesn't actually say, hey, it has 5,000 parts or it has 200 parts or whatever. But it definitely has more parts than the Tamiya kit. I mean, just in the road wheels alone, you're looking at double the parts. So on and so forth. So, let's see. Looks like we're going to be good. And again, just make sure that when you're putting these on, you're putting the face on the outside where it belongs. Because I don't think when this is done, if you glued it backwards, if you're getting this off, you may be stuck with crummy wheels. So now that that's done, moving on to the sprocket. Right there, there's an inner and outer part. The outer part has, of course, the outer face. The inner part has the, I'm going to call it the socket that goes into. So they fit like that. However, because of the new tracks, they have a ring. And if you look at this ring part H15, there's a kind of a rounded edge. I mean, it's subtle, so don't worry about it, and kind of a flat edge. And that rounded edge should point towards, on each side, should point towards the tooth face. If you're paying attention now, I dry fit this stuff and it doesn't look like it's going to interfere if you do it wrong the other way, but on the real sprocket, and I just found this out like an hour ago, on the real sprocket, it has a little bit of a jump there, and it raises out. So this is pretty close to correct as far as how this should look, with a little bit of a rise in it. And you guys know I've been working on other kits, other stuff. So when I did mine, I did not have the information, so I do not have that jump right there in the kit. So this will have to be reworked to be accurate. I mean, it's, can you tell from this way? Only if you're poking your nose in there and if it's important, but I'm going to say it's important to me. So Magic Factory did the sprocket right. And again, look for that slight rounding on the one piece. Put it that way. I just want it said, when it's all done, that I'm not gonna give compliments where they're due. That was a good catch by them when doing these sprockets. I know what you're saying. You're saying, but wait a minute. What about the kinetic kit? They had the sprockets in there too. Well, it just so happens I have a kinetic kit piece right here, and guess what? Just like the ones I did, no step, no nothing. Right there. I want to compare real quick. The Magic Factory kit has a slightly larger centerpiece in it. It has bolt heads all the way around and a little bit more detail in there. The lightning holes are a little bit larger. The teeth are a little bit longer and more rounded. All details I think that are better as far as that goes. And then on the rear side, they mount differently, but the kinetic kit has lightning holes in the back. As far as I've been able to tell, there shouldn't be any lightning holes on the back piece for the sprocket, but I'm not sure on that. I have not been able to confirm that there's none in there, so your mileage may vary. I would only like to say that my guess would be that there are lightning holes on the inside and the outside, just because then the drums or sides are mirrored like this, and you can swap them around really quickly. But don't take my word on it. That's an assumption. So anyways, put them together like that. Looks remarkably like the real thing. Put some glue in there, get that going. Now there is some slop. I hope you can see that. So you got to make sure those teeth are lined up, so when you put tracks in there, they aren't all wonked out. So I usually put it down on something and then just kind of eyeball it to see how close they are. Looks good. Again, same thing with this side. Whoop. To me, at least, I can tell pretty easily which side of that ring is rounded and which one isn't. So again, just dabbling. I put a little bit of glue on there to hold it, so I can put that on, get it somewhat tight, and then I go across it with this to really kind of nail it down. And this time I'm going to do it on the other side just to show that you can. So I'll put the glue on that way, line it up, let that start. And the plastic takes the glue. I'm using my regular Testors liquid glue. Takes the glue well. Starts to stick almost right away. Looks about right. So, and again, you may want to prime. I would prime in black for that before I put it together. Is what it is. I'll deal with it later. Finally, we come to the idlers. These look relatively decent too. It's not in the instructions to do it right now, but just so you know, there will be a hub piece that goes in there later. So you have that. So they did that as a separate part. So each sprocket is at least 3 parts. But in this case, you're just putting them together. Again, there's some slop, and we'll go over that. So put some glue in there. This one I don't think is quite as necessary to worry about for priming and or doing this. But what you want when you're orienting the angle feels like pushing all the way in one particular direction. You look at it, it's the openings between each side, they're not mirrored. There's a certain like 7.5% twist, so that the arm on this side goes equally between the 2 arms on the other side. So I'm just looking through and making sure that the holes on either side of the arm facing me are pretty much equal, and that pretty much nails it right there for what you need for the real deal. And again, this. And remember, once again, I've already cleaned up all my parts. So I can just do the gluing. Just put it together. There we go. Top and bottom. So that first bar on the top of step 1 is done for the road wheels. Now, I'm going to put these up above here. Now we're getting into the lower hull. And on the lower hull, first we have, I'm going to go with these final drives, and 18 and 4. Okay, I cut them off. I mixed them up. What do I do? Well, the difference between them, when you lay them down, has to do with where's this little point here. You can see that they curve around. There's a little bit of a point on this side. There's a little bit of a slight rise on this side, and then there's like a little flat chunk there. So they mirror each other. Okay, so which one goes where? Well, the way that they have the instructions are set up, this flat piece right here should face down. Right? So there, when you look at this, there should be a little gap between how they've done the indenting, or the I can't think of the word for it, but the machining down of this. You can see that there's a line there that you slide this in, and there's a slight gap now right there, like so. Now if we took the other one and put that one in, first of all, this doesn't fit quite right at the top where that little bulge is, and the gap is at the top here. Doesn't really fit. Instead of forcing it, if you mix them up, just grab the other one and see if it fits better. This one fits right like that. That's the shape that's in the instructions if you look at it. So that's how you can kind of tell, but that little gap should be kind of pointing towards the back. So we'll get that on and going. So just like that. So part of this is not, oh, well, you know, the company screwed something up. They didn't screw anything up. It's more, what happens if I screw something up? So there's the final drives, the outer covers on, like so. Now I've got the parts for the suspension arms separated left and right on here. And you'll sit and say, okay, well, we've got, I'm going to move these out of the way so you can see, okay, we've got 2 of D11 and 4 of D9, and oh, you know, I just mixed them all up. What's the difference between them? Well, D9 has a peg coming off the back. D11 doesn't. Well, sorry, it should be D. This has a peg coming off. Well, yeah, that is the back. So it's going to go on like this. This is the back. That's where the suspension rod, arm, shock, whatever the hell it is. I think it's classified as a shock. Anyways, that's going to attach there and go to the hull. When you're dealing with D11, these are going to face in the same direction, like this, with the same bump, but they're not going to have that rod. And it's just 2 D11, so it's not like D11 and something else or whatever, and you're just putting the suspension arms on there and done. So, simple. However, when these go in, like most models, they do have some slop. Now, when you take, and I'm just dry fitting at this point, when you take the part, and when you do the part for, I'm going to show you going over here, the hole is here. I need another arm. So I'm going to go, so when you look at this hole needs to point towards the suspension. And in this case, you can't see this. Well, what if I screwed up and pulled all these rods out, and D14 and D13 are different? Okay, well, I look over here, and I've got the round part of the rod, round part of the rod. Okay, but I got to flip this over because this hole has to go onto that suspension. When I do that, this part is now facing the wrong direction, the other way. So this is D14. D14, when it attaches to the hull, should attach with the rod in the hull and the half or quarter moon pointing up. And this, yeah, this gets to be a point where you kind of feel like you need 10 hands, but one thing you can do, once you're comfortable with this, or if you're comfortable with this, is take and this'll, yeah, see, now I just threw that in there. Which one is it? What did I do wrong? Well, this one doesn't look like those two. Is to quickly go in, put this on, glue it on, and then have it ready to be guided on. But I'm gonna do it without glue, because once this is all on, now there's no wiggle room. So what that means is your first 3 road wheel stations are going to be rock solid. Your last road wheel station is going to be rock solid. That means that you're not going to have to worry about leveling everything out as much, because there's no, you know, this is where it's going to be. So again, I'll show you. You take the suspension piece, you take the shock absorber arm, and I am putting the shock absorber in the hull first, and then I am press fitting this. It's all press fit right now, no glue, rock solid, straight line. I mean, if you press with it, you can probably get a little bit, but what I would do is I would dry fit press these together real nice. And the nice thing is, on the backside, you've got detail, if that's something that you really need to know is there. And do you really need it? How many people are looking under your tanks? I know that's a touchy subject and has been for a little while. I'm not looking underneath tanks, but if you put a mirror, let's say you put a mirror under there and you wanted to show that off, then you've got the detail. Once again, doing that, putting it in the hull, press fit, make sure everything's good. Rock solid, not going anywhere. And I want to do the last one here before I do anything else. And that just shows, you know, parts got mixed up on here. I know what I'm looking for. You put this on first and try and put that on, not really going to work. I mean, the angles are weird. You might end up breaking the pin. Don't force it. I haven't had any problems with this. Just carefully put it on. Be gentle with it. Put that in. And there's a nice tight press fit. And boom, it's done nice and level right across. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take my glue, put it on there, put it on here, put it on here. Just let that capillary action work. Now you can get the glue in from the backside. Don't want to do that as much. In fact, I want to be careful so I'm not leaving fingerprints, especially if any of you want to put interiors in. So I'm going to hold it right here by this wing, I'm going to call it. And then just dot, 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 dot. And I don't really want to move this around too much once. Oh crap, I've got 2 this way and 2 the wrong way, or 1 the wrong way over here. So okay, damage control. I've just done that. Thankfully, I just noticed that while this is still wet. Pull that off. How'd that do that? I gotta admit, that's confusing, because all the other ones, there we go. That's the one I want. There's that one. There's the one I had some glue in. So, good point. All of those are the same. This is the one I need over here. I want it facing up. That's facing up. Well, you can see now here. You can see how the glue that I put in it spread. It's also going to get behind part of that sleeve for the shock, I guess is what it is. Now, I was able to do that because I caught it right away. If you make a mistake later, might be a bit of a bummer. Especially the way this is gluing in. But that catches it. Now also look, everything is nice and straight. I'm looking down try and give you the same view down the side of the vehicle. Everything is nice and straight and level and hurrah. Okay, making sure we've got the right parts, and we do. Press fit these in. These have some slop. So what I'm going to do, gently, I'm going to create a little bit of a bigger gap there. I'm going to put some glue in there, wiggle them around, and then I'm going to push them kind of to the highest end that they can. Now I've got a metallic straight edge ruler that I can use, and what I'm going to do is bump these all. I can see I've got to go down with these. And instead of forcing it, which might cause, something to break, something to snap, something to go out of line, I'm going to move those. They moved quite a bit. This takes a little bit of work and patience. But I want to get these to line up. Okay. So as you can see right now, I'm running everything on the outside edge of the suspension. And everything lines up and is touching. Pretty simple right there. Boom, done. And that glue is setting. I'm looking down the long end again. You can see how straight everything is. I mean, it's really nice. I like how Magic Factory has this set up, and it's not like they engineered something special. It's just that it's engineered kind of like the real vehicle, so everything lines up like you'd want on the real vehicle. Now, I'm going to go back through and do the same thing on this side, being careful not to have that, lean that on there and push those in or make strange pushes on it, I guess, or whatever. Now, I did go through and clean all these parts, but I don't know if it just didn't take well, or maybe I missed an edge. Didn't think I did. No, I didn't. It's just when you're cleaning it up, I guess the plastic that's used doesn't always, see right there? I mean, it's smooth, but it looks rough. So just be aware that things might look a little different than what you're used to for model building. But again, put that down. This is the one that I had glue on before, so I want to use that right away. I know it's going to go on like that. So, you could actually sit here to double check everything and make sure. Put these together like so. Make sure all those half moons are curved towards the upper hull. Like so. Not gluing anything, just making sure. I keep on putting this out of the frame, sorry. So again, I'm going to be putting that in this way. Angle that. Just checking everything over. And again, this is all smooth right in here from when I cleaned it up. It just looks odd. I don't know if it's the plastic that Magic Factory is using or what. So, again, put that in the hole, put that, press fit that in the slot. Done. Now, if you have time and you want to really be patient with it and do it right, put just the 4 stations in with the suspension or with the shock absorbers. Let it dry for 24, 48 hours. You know, let's say you're going away, going to work on a business trip or something. Let it sit. When you get back, that thing is going to be glued rock hard, and then you can put a little bit more pressure on it when you want to align those other 2 road wheel arms without worrying about knocking them out of position. It's possible to do that. Okay, doing this like we did last time. And I'm not being thin with the glue, but you don't want to be too generous, or just like I felt on my finger, see, it's going to run on the inside. It'll run through that, in particular, that hole from the suspension, or from the shock. I keep calling it the suspension, it's the shock. And then just double check everything. Again, I'm looking down the line. This is what I found to be the most accurate way to see if everything's lined up. That looks good. Again, my 2 non-shock absorber faced arms, they go in, and I can do some gross adjusting right now just to kind of get an idea. Get them in close. And then, because what I'm using, why I'm pulling these apart and putting more of a gap in there, is I'm using the glue when it gets in there to be a little bit slipperier. And this plastic seems to be less slippery than others. I mean, it's reacting well to the tester's glue and locking on pretty straight, so, or pretty quick, pretty straight. So I'm noticing this one's a little too high. Make the adjustment right there. This back one's just a touch too high. This one's a little too low. This one's just a little bit too low. Okay. Now we've got them solid. Again, looking down the line, everything looks really, really good. If I can angle it for you, there we go. So, there's that. Next up is putting on to the rear D3, D1. Same parts, same side, or different sides, doesn't matter. Gonna go in here like so, and on here, being careful not to whack your, all of this is pretty loose, so it's not gonna be nearly as easy to put these parts on as it was for the other one, for the other parts. So what you want to do is go in and touch that, just to get the work started. Put that on. Now here is something weird. The slot faces down that way. Oh, because I need to pay attention to my angle. So I almost made a boo-boo there as well. I'm hoping you're going to be able to catch all this. Yes, I've got it in the video. Okay, so there we go. So glue, make sure that everything is pointing up. You do not have, as it comes in the kit, you do not have an adjustable idler. What you have is a fixed idler. So there's no back and forth. And you can kind of see the detail and the shape that's in there. Do the same thing on this side. Except I'm not going to face it the wrong way this time. So it is nice in that you get a little bit of separation from the hull. There should just be a tiny amount, not a lot. As far as that goes, let's see if I can angle this so you can see it without a shadow. So you can see it's pretty close. There's just a tiny noticeable gap on either side of the Bradley hull. Kind of like the real thing. It's pretty crammed in there. Okay. That gets us up to the middle part of step 1. I'm not going to put the return rollers on yet. That'll be in the next step, and then we'll also do the front and the final drive housings in the front as well. So if you're building, this is where you can stop.